Amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
And so I am Crystal Gunn, founder of the Amazing Woman Network and host of Amazing Women Speak. And please do me a favor and share this with your friends so they can join in on this conversation. Don't keep it to yourself. Bless somebody today. It will be a blessing to you as well. I promise you. And so I'm super excited about today's conversation, as always. And there is not a day that goes by that faith doesn't play a part. And I remember hearing someone once say that we take for granted leaving the house and returning back home safely. The faith that it takes to just get in your car and run errands, believing that you will return home safely without harm or incident. In small ways or enormous ways, you can't tell me faith doesn't show up throughout your day, every single day. Faith is a big part of my life. It's a big part of my business, including my business plan. So let's talk about it. Michele, welcome, dear, and let's get to it.
Good evening. Welcome, Facebook. Excited to be a part of another dynamic conversation with dynamic women, talking about the most important tool in your toolkit, and that is the importance of having faith. Really excited to hear from these amazing women that we have joining us. Remember, Facebook, we invite you into this conversation. This is the fastest hour of your day. Utilize the chat. We would love to make you a part of this conversation. Ask questions. These two women are going to be vulnerable in sharing their stories. You're going to get an opportunity to learn what is it to dig into and hold on to, that thing that we all utilize, whether we want to name it or not. Tonight, we're naming it. We're talking about the importance of gotta have faith. I'm always honored to share this space with my BFF, being able to co-host these conversations, and again, getting to hear from amazing women across this globe. Let's find out who we have with us tonight. Meisha, come on in here and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. So super excited to be here this evening. So my name is Meisha Pigford. I'm the owner of Dream Celebration. So I am an event planner. I've been doing so for the past 9 years. So I plan over the top weddings, also showers, birthday parties, things of that sort. The other part of my business is the education side. So I launched the Wild Academy about 2.5 years ago. And with that part of the business, I educate other event planners to be able to do the same thing that I'm doing, whether that's through hands-on workshops. We do coaching, we do online courses, as well as conferences. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing more about the ways in which you touch folks through helping us plan what for many of us are some of the most stressful events in our lives. So look forward to hearing how faith plays a part in you ensuring the success of your business. Cydney, welcome back. Please introduce for first-time listeners.
Absolutely. So my name is Cydney. Thank you, Michele and Crystal, for having me back. I'm wearing multiple hats, as pretty sure everybody does. I'm currently serving as the executive director for the Austin Foundation. We are a nonprofit servicing students in Detroit. Then I'm also a training consultant, so I'm helping small businesses improve their customer experience. I'm very excited to share with you all tonight my journey through faith, because I will not be here today if I did not have faith. So really excited to dive into the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. So diving in, Cydney, is a really good way to put this. Again, fastest hour of the day. I don't believe in doing anything in shallow waters. We've got a small amount of time for folks to learn the importance of, and a lot of that learning happens through folks sharing their stories. So I want to dive right in, hearing about your stories. Tell me about that moment in life where you recognized that without faith, the very next thing that you were going to do was not going to be what it was designed to be in your mind. What was that defining moment for you, Cydney?
Oh, I think I have a lot. I'm trying to think more recently. I would say when I graduated college. And I came from Michigan, University of Michigan, and everybody was getting their fancy corporate jobs and they new cars and they new apartments. And I'm over here just applying, getting denied. I'm getting denied. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I done came to the same school as all of these kids in here. I done got my degree. I done got the recommendation. I done did everything I'm supposed to do. And I'm not upset about it, but I'm trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, what am I supposed to be doing next? Like, I'm just looking for an answer. So one thing my mom has always, instilled in me and instilled in all my siblings is that you got to pray your way through whatever you're going through, right? So I remember specifically in August or September or August of like 2019, this is way before COVID. We're just lollygagging, doing our thing. But I specifically remember being like, I need to get a job. Like, I'm about to get a job. Everybody's getting a job. I'm gonna need a job. But I wasn't getting one. And I had prayed and I was like, Lord, I really need something. Like, I need something to be able to move on to the next thing. But I didn't know what that something was, right? So within the same week, I had also applied back to grad school. So I applied at Wayne State to get my master's of education. And then, so that's essentially instructional design, creating curriculum and things like that. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. So I applied for both of them. Or I applied for grad school, but I hadn't heard anything back. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's not the right thing I'm supposed to be doing. So then somebody reached out to me randomly in my inbox and they were like, hey, do you want this job? And mind you, it was a quick phone call and I was hired like on the spot. I was hired on the spot and I could not believe I had got hired that fast. Because mind you, I've been getting denials since I would say earlier March in 2019. So I've been applying right. I didn't get my first yes until August. That same week, I got accepted into grad school. So I went from having nothing to having both things at the same time. So I was trying to figure out, okay, why am I now? I'm like, and I look back on it now, I understand the bigger picture of it, but I'm like, why am I at essentially a data library firm on their training team, basically their customer service team? I'm like their onboarding person. I'm like, why am I doing onboarding? I don't want to do onboarding. What does this have to do to the bigger picture? Fast forward 3 or 4 years later, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what I got my degree. So I was confused because I'm like, this makes no sense to me. I'm trying to figure out what am I doing here? I didn't like my team. My team didn't like me. But that experience and just going into something and just being and trusting the Lord and being like, listen, I need this position, I need this opportunity, bring me something or show it to me, bring it to me. And that's been my thing that I've been doing like the last few weeks, is saying it out of my mouth exactly how I want it. But before then, I was just like, I just need something. So the bigger picture is that he will prepare you for where you are today. So that's been I would say my recent thing on the last 3 or 4 years is how he's prepared me for where I am right now. So yeah, I'm just very grateful. I thank God.
So, and it's a very personal thing, right? It means something different to each of us. And so I thank you in advance for the ways in which you'll be vulnerable in this conversation. It will touch somebody's life. Meisha, how do you define faith?
Oh, that's a good question. Faith is not something that you say. Faith is something that you do. When I think about faith, right? Even in scripture, it talks about how without faith, it's impossible to please God. And so a lot of times with the faith, you don't get to see what that next step is. You have no idea. You just literally have to put one foot in front of the other. So that's that action. So faith is an action. That's what it means to me.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Right? You don't have to see Martin Luther King, the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step, right? In a very worldly way, it's a great way for those out there that aren't connected to their Bibles, right? We all know Martin Luther King to understand. You don't have to see the whole, you have to take, and that is in essence what faith is, and understanding that it is impossible to please him without it. And it's the action of, it's easy to say I have it, right?
Yes.
So Cydney, tell us about a time where you did not want to rely on it. You thought you had it all together on your own. What was that like for you?
Sometimes I really do be thinking that I got the answers to everything, and I don't. I really don't.
We've all been guilty.
We all think that we got the answers to all of it, and we really don't be knowing what we be doing. We really just go through the motions, but sometimes I feel like I would say, like, as I'm in this business, as I'm an entrepreneur, and as I'm going through, the everyday motions of, going through emails and applying for these different opportunities, I can see like how I've structured or how I've started my business, and how I wanted to do all of these things, right? I'm like, I'm going to be, and I was just so broad, right? I'm just going to do everything. And I think that's a lot of times what we do as entrepreneurs, is thinking that we have to tackle everything. But sometimes the answer is like right in front of your face. So that experience for like the last, I would say 2 or 3 years or so of me thinking that I'm going to do everything in my business, and I'm going to service this person this way, and I'm going to service this big client that way. That's not going to pan out, because he's already told you, like, he's already prepared me to be in customer experience and to be in the onboarding. But it's me, I don't know, having like a blind eye, or just not seeing that it's right in my face and that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That I'm not saying that I wasted time, but it's just like I've learned a lot of lessons on the way. And it's more so just paying attention to those different things or those different experiences that I've had. So I would say that when you are relying on you and what you think is right, that you will run into a lot more hurdles. You will just pay attention and listen. You would definitely shorten that timeline for sure.
Something I would like to add to that is also with faith is it's about learning to tell time. And what I mean by that is so many times we think that we know what we need when we need it. And we have like this timetable on it, right? But with faith, it's really understanding that if you don't have it right now, it's really for the benefit of your good, because you don't want something too prematurely, or you don't want something that you're not graced for in this season.
Oh, I absolutely love that. So so much importance in what you just said for folks, right? And so tell us a little bit about what that looks like in your life.
In real life. How much time do we got? No.
Right, because oftentimes, right, like when things are going well.
Yeah, it's easy to say you got faith.
It's easy to say I have faith, right?
Yeah.
And so we really like to talk about the experiential in these conversations so that folks that are struggling really hear about, this is my overcome story, or this is how it happened and it wasn't great and I had to go through it anyway.
Yeah, sometimes people think that, everybody experiences faith the same way, and that's not necessarily true, okay? And so all you need is a mustard seed amount of faith, okay? So if you are going through a situation and you're crying about it, right? Your tears does not demonstrate that you don't have faith. It doesn't demonstrate that, right? And so it just represents that, okay, you are human, you're in your feelings right now, and it is stressful. The uncertainty and not knowing what's going to happen next is very stressful. So you might find yourself crying or second guessing yourself, or a little bit of doubt coming in there. But when you feel those type of things coming up, then you have to, the first thing you got to do, let me say, the first thing that I do is I reflect back on a situation where I was in something similar and God brought me out of that. And so it's like, okay, well, if he brought me out of that one, then okay, he's gonna do something to bring me out of this one. The other thing is, not to be dropping too many scriptures, but faith without works is dead. And so if you're just kind of sitting stagnant and, oh Lord, do this for me, but you're not doing anything to help yourself, then that's what you need to be doing. Okay. So you need to be remembering and you need to be working towards something. But I think the biggest part of the faith that you need to be doing is believing. So no matter how many times you say that you're going to come out of this, just because you say it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Like, you have to believe without a shadow of a doubt that it will happen. And so once you believe that, then you are able to really execute faith and demonstrate faith in a way that pleases God.
All of the things, all of the things, right? And so this conversation about faith and the need of recognizing that this is God's timing, right? Like you said a lot about, you need to be doing something and still be trusting God's timing. It's not a one or done. I asked for it. I'm going to go sit on my hands and wait for him to deliver. He said without works, right? So there's that part of it. And just because I'm working does not mean it's going to happen tomorrow. Trusting God's timing, and his no has saved you more than you even realize. And one of the things that I want to encourage our Facebook listeners to check his book, check his record. He's 100 to 0. I promise you. Check it. Look back on the last thing that you said in full of tears, full of fear, and you did not know how you were going to get it through. Check his records. He's 100 to 0 still. And how is it that we continue to miss the opportunity to go back and check that and to rely on that and to build on that, right? Like, we're all guilty of it. We forget. And we're so stuck in this one that we forgot that he brought us through, that he made a way, right? Like, both of you are in spaces as folks who are entrepreneurs. No clue, right? That's not a demonstration of faith, right? Like, we've talked to women who have walked away from their corporate jobs.
Yeah.
Faith, naming that thing in a very real way. Tell us about that, Meisha, right? Like, you're out here doing event planning, and that can be a very roller coaster kind of experience. And you stepped out on faith. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So here's the thing with that. So 9 years ago, so I had my master's degree from Michigan State in human resources. And so I worked in corporate HR for years.
Look at Cydney's face.
Right. We graduated from state too. That's why Cydney is over there.
Okay. So, growing up, it's like, go to school, get a good job. There you go. Right. And then, I went to school, I studied abroad, I got a good job. And then it was not what I thought it was going to be. But in that, I just had this inclination, y'all, that I said, well, if this corporation could pay me this type of salary for a skill that I had to go to school to learn how to do, then surely God will pay me that salary plus some with my God-given gift. So I did the unthinkable, and I was at GE, and I resigned from my big cushy job down in Florida, by the way.
Oh,
down in Florida. I am from Detroit, Michigan, and so that's where I reside now. But I left my big corporate job and branched out on my own. And so it was challenging those first couple of years, right? And, I had friends and family questioning me like, wait, I thought you were smart. Like, you got a master's degree, right? You worked in all of these, corporate roles. Like, this don't seem smart. So there's gonna be people that's gonna come up against you and challenge you, right? But what I say to that is, when God gives you a calling, it wasn't a conference call. Like, he didn't put your husband, your wife, your sister, your mama, your daddy all on his call to express what the vision is. He gave it to you. And so you have to know and believe within the shadow of a doubt that this is the desire within my heart. And so I'm a person who is very imaginatory. So I literally like a part of my pass by time is I like to just sit and imagine. And so I'll see myself doing different things, and I really enjoy just letting my imagination roam. And the thing with the imagination piece, y'all, is I truly believe that if I can think something up, then I can actually achieve it. I can actually do it. And so it might sound impossible to somebody else, but the way my brain has taught me over these years is that, wait, nothing is impossible with God. If it was impossible, then I would not been able to think it up. I wouldn't have been able to dream it up.
Absolutely.
So because I was able to dream it up, I can do it. And that's just what I've always felt. So
I think some people get lost in the fact, and Michele touched on it earlier, about that timing thing, right? So you think it and it doesn't always show up immediately, right? But some things can't show up immediately. It's almost like you're getting a preview of what's supposed to happen, right? But there are some things that you got to go through. There are some things that you got to learn. There's some people that you got to meet in order for that thing to become a reality. When I look at what I do right now, I couldn't have done this thing 5-6 years ago. I had to go through some stuff in order to get here. But having said that, do we underestimate the power of faith?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Like 100%. That mustard seed that Meisha talked about planting does not grow without having to go through some dirt.
Sure.
Right? Like it doesn't happen in a really
tears.
clean way. Absolutely. We underestimate it in the spaces that really matter. Right? Other spaces, we don't even think about it as being faith.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about going outside, getting in a car that you did not build, putting your foot on the gas, on freeways, and trusting a man you never met did what he was supposed to do to make that car work the way that it's supposed to work. If that's not a definition of faith, I don't know what is, but you're calling it something else. But when it comes time to rely on the thing, the person, not the thing, the person who can really bring you through whatever it is, who is ultimately responsible for the safety of that travel, who is ultimately responsible for the safety of your children coming home. And that's God. We underestimate absolutely the power of what faith can do. And part of it is we go back to, because you refuse to check his records.
Yeah. Something I would like to add to the conversation is, in my experience, there's different levels to faith. So if you're somebody who's sitting up there watching and faith may be new to you, like, that's okay. Like, there's different levels of faith. And so different situations will come up for you to be able to build what I call your faith muscles. So say, for example, this is the beginning of the year, people say they go out and they're going to be working out, right? So if you go into the gym and you haven't worked out, you're not going to be able to go into that gym and just bench press, 250 pounds. Us women, we're not going to be able to just walk in there and do that today, right? So you might start off with some dumbbells, and maybe they're 15 pounds or whatever. And so you're going to keep exercising those muscles, and then eventually, if your goal is to bench press 200 whatever pounds, you'll be able to do that. But my point is that things are going to be coming up for you to be able to exercise that faith muscle. And so then once you really need that big thing, you'll be ready for it then. So little things are going to be happening along the way to build up those muscles for when you really need it for something that's like mind-blowing big. It's like, oh my God, I cannot remember. Like, I needed $30,000 in 30 days. And
I was gonna say, she just don't say that and not finish
Right, I'm
and I was able to get it. But it took the little faith along the way, that when I was presented with that situation, that yes, there was some crying, there was some prayer, and there was some fasting, there was some, Lord, help me get out of this. But because I had those experiences prior to, I was well suited to experience this new level of faith.
So, right, like we're all fallible, we're all human, we all make mistakes, we all forget to lean on the source, right? And he talked about what he will give us with a mustard seed. Cydney, tell us about a time you exercised big faith. Like I've done this enough to know mustard seed isn't gonna get it. I need to exercise. Tell us about a time.
I think for me with faith, I really think that it is one of my superpowers. I'm not gonna lie. Like my belief and faith that the Lord is gonna do it is just, I just gotta believe it, because it's not gonna get done any other way. So here recently, I have been practicing just saying it and writing it down. So the first one I do is to write it down. The scripture says to write it down, make the vision plain, and those who read it, they're gonna run. So that's my favorite scripture, right? Make the vision plain and write it down, right? But as you write it down, you also have to say it and speak it out of your mouth, but you also have to believe that it's already gonna be done. So when you say it, it's already done. And when I am in prayer and when I pray for it, I'm not gonna worry about the mechanics and logistics about how it's gonna get done. Because if I do that, that ain't got nothing to do with me. All I know is that's not my business. My business is praying for, asking for, and just believing that it's gonna happen. So here recently, I've just been speaking of things out. So a couple of weeks ago, I had my beautiful 2008 Chevy Cobalt. She was my ride or die in college, right? She had just hit 210,000 miles, right? And I was hanging on for dear life. I was hanging on to her. You got a small tank of gas, you know, you gotta fill her up that much.
That's important, girl.
That was my home girl, right? But here recently, my mom was like, you gotta get a new car. But she had kept on saying it, but I hadn't said it out my mouth and I hadn't asked for it yet. She kept on saying, like, Sid, you gotta get a car. Yeah. And I was just like, girl, ain't nothing wrong with this car. Girl, leave it alone. Stop saying it. But something had happened to it and I was just tired. And I remember I was just like, Lord, I need a new car. I literally need a new car. Not even 24 hours later, my brother has a friend and he sells cars. He reached out to us like, hey, I got a car for Cydney. Brand new, nice little 2015 all white Fusion. Beautiful. Just because I had said it out my mouth and I had believed that it was going to happen. I was like, I don't care how it's going to happen. I had just prayed about it and I had let it go and I was moving on to the next thing. And that's just how I personally practice faith, is I will pray about it, but I am not about to sit up here and worry about how it's going to get done. I know that it's going to get done. I don't know when it's going to get done. Like, how did I know it was going to be a 24-hour turnaround, less than 24-hour turnaround? Like, that was amazing, but it's not always going to be like that. And then here recently in my business, you know, as I've been, you know, I'm trying to navigate through things, figure out what we're going to do. I had told Crystal this one where I've been applying to a lot of different proposals and things like that, RFPs and RFIs. But I get so tired of them. I'm like, I don't want to keep on seeking these things out. I want them to come to me. I want the contracts and opportunities to come directly to me. I said that out of my mouth. Not even 24 hours later, I would say 17 hours later, an opportunity is in my email talking about your organization is been picked out to apply. Of course. So I say that to bring back up Michelle's point is that we really do underestimate the power of faith. And sometimes because I know we all do this, when things are going good, we're just okay. Sometimes we forget to do whatever. But I'm saying, don't stop praying and don't stop asking for things, right? Because he's going to continue to provide it as long as you continue to ask for it. So don't get into a space where you're high going, you're like, yeah, we're going to get it. And then we get to a low point, then you start asking, continue to pray, to continue to ask for it because he is going to provide it. So that's how I practice faith. And
something that Cydney said, she said she doesn't worry about the mechanics. And I just want to highlight that. I want us to, I want to make an emphasis point on that, is that, you can't worry about the mechanics. So usually our sight and our feelings is what interfere with faith and hinders our faith, right? Because if we're sitting up here feeling like, oh, well, I can't logically see how this is going to happen, or that feels impossible for me, or I don't feel like I'm capable, or I don't feel like she liked me, or I don't feel like he liked me, or whatever the situation is. Usually it's our feelings and things that we can see that stops us from having that faith. It just robs that faith right from us. So it's key. What she said was that you cannot worry about the how. You just have to say it out of your mouth, but you have to believe it, and then let that go and let that part be God's part, to be able to figure out how he's going to do it and get it to you. You're out of that equation at that point.
Right. Because what's the point of asking if you're going to try to figure out yourself? And you should.
Right. And it's really important that we understand what our roles are, right? And so I want our listeners to understand, when Cydney said, I pray and let it go, it doesn't mean she's not doing works, right? Because we also we should say faith without works is dead. So it's not like she went and sat on her hands and is doing nothing. She's doing her part. She knows the piece she has to let go is the part that God does. I am not even smart enough to try to figure out how he's going to do it. I'm going to keep doing the things that align me to be blessed with what I asked for. Amen. And so that's those differences. We want to make sure that you hear that, folks, that we aren't saying we're asking and doing nothing. My faith is working.
Absolutely.
And I'm trusting and I'm moving on, because the mechanics of this is not my responsibility. Not wise enough, not smart enough, not big enough, not any of those enoughs to think that I can do his part. And we need to stop that, right? So that's where I got this. I don't need to rely on anybody. I got my own job. I pulled myself up from my, no, you did not. Absolutely did not. You're operating and still receiving a faith blessing that you didn't even know that you were receiving, because it is by your faith. And I promise you, if it's not because of you, it's because somebody else is praying on your behalf.
Absolutely.
Right? And so talk about the importance of tribe and who we surround ourselves with and how we speak into our lives. It's going to take your warrior sometimes to show up.
Yes.
To get us to that thing. And so you have to pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with as well.
I'm very conscious of that. You go ahead, Crystal.
The other piece of that with faith is understanding that we can't even imagine. Like, we can imagine on our level, but we can't really even imagine on the level of which God has for us, because we've been taught to play it small, right? We've been taught to, oh, you can only do this much. You can only have this much. And I was talking to my brother earlier today, and I said, and we've been conditioned for that, right? Like, you should feel guilty for asking for so much or whatever. But it's like going to the ocean, and the ocean is saying, take all of the water that you need and that you want, and you go with a bucket.
Yeah.
It's like, how insane is that? But on the flip side of that, what happens when, because we've been talking about things that we want, things that we desire, and believing in that. What happens And yep, you got to have faith. But what happens when life throws you a curveball? The illness, you got fired from the job, they cut your salary. What do you do and how do you work in that? And Michele had a lesson for me. It was simple, not too long ago. But how do you work into that when that curveball happens and tests your faith?
You got to keep on praying. That's what my mama said. You got to keep on pushing and keep on going. But honestly, I would say that you just gotta faith. That's all I can say. That's all you gotta do. You just gotta keep on praying and keep on, because it's really,
you gotta faith it till you make it.
You really do, because for those moments, and you also cannot question him through these different challenges that you are facing, because honestly, it's gonna come back and serve like the bigger picture. Yeah. From those experiences. So you can't question and be upset. You could be upset, but you can't question and be like, oh, why me? Why me? You just got to have the faith again that this experience that I'm going through is going to lead me to X, Y, and Z. But having that faith and staying prayerful is going to get you through whatever challenge you're going through, illness, sickness, whatever it is. But you just got to pray your way through. That's all I can say for that.
Yeah, you definitely got to pray. But I'm gonna say too that more than likely, this is not your first rodeo show. This is not your first. As adults, right. As adults, this is not your first curveball, right? And so that's when you have to really look at this situation and say, you know what? All things happen together for my good. Mm-hmm. You got to say that. But then you also got to look at it and say, what is it what's the lesson from this? Like sometimes, so the God that we serve is a jealous God. And so sometimes things happen to get our attention. And so we have to really look at what we're doing, our actions, our motives, our intentions, and all of that. So we're praying, but we're also reflecting too. And we're also remembering and understanding that even this situation that you're going through right now is also going to serve for your good.
And how you speak about that in your life can be the difference maker, right? So again, right, like, all right, I'm of a certain age, I'm going to say, check his records. The kids are going to say, check the receipts, right? Like, I'm clear, he's already paid all of it. Check the receipts. And so how you speak about your life and how you speak about the things that are around you can be such a difference maker, even in the darkest of times. It recognizing that if I can just look at this through the lens of my faith, I can get through this and provide to be the gap for somebody else who is struggling on the other side. I can be that bridge for that individual, no matter how dark this situation is. And we've all, I am sure, we're Black women in America, have experienced the dark and the lows. And if I ever have to say, I wonder how I got out of this, check the tape, check the receipts, check his records. He is clear, 100 to 0 every single time. And we question when it's not feeling good, when it's feeling dark. We want to question, what if I just realigned my thinking to know, as Meisha said, everything is working together for my good. Not some of it, not part of it, not a 3/4 of it. Everything is working together. If I'm staying faithful and committed to him, everything will work out for my good, whether it's a loss of a loved one, whether it's a tragedy that is happening, whatever it is, I promise you, check the tape. He's going to do it again because he's done it before. And if you are doing your part, which is so small in comparison to what you get back, if you do that small thing and be a blessing and be a bridge for somebody else, right? Like a bucket won't contain it.
Right.
You brought a bucket and you'll look around behind you and there's 30 more, because he knows what he's about to pour into you. What you brought to the table cannot contain it. Mm-hmm. That's how we exercise it even in the darkest of times.
Yeah, we go through things to help other people. I heard a quote that said, persecution and trouble and challenges are the evidence that the devil has more faith in you than you.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
Because anything that has happened to you gotta be ran by God to say that, hey, can this, to allow this to even happen. And so for it to happen, then God said yes, as if you are his strongest soldier for this. Like, if he's gonna bring you, we know all the sayings, if he bring you through it, he'll bring you, if he bring it to you, he'll bring you through it. Right. And so yeah, so I just wanted to mention that too.
Yeah. So important to remember that, right? Like, and pull on the cliches if you have to, as a reminder to yourself to build that thinking that's going to be able to get you through. And understand that a lot of 90% of what we go through in life is bigger than us. We're so tunneled about me, 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 me. The ways in which you're blessed is to be a blessing to somebody else. The challenges that you're going through, somebody's watching and getting strength from you. Somebody else is going to get that yes because you got the no. It's bigger than just you as an individual. And you have to recognize that as I am blessed, I'm going to make room for others to be able to see my faith is what got me through this, is what allowed me to receive this blessing. How you go from needing $30,000 in 30 days and it is in line. How you go from Miss Cobalt saying no more, you get no more out of me, to 24 hours in your new whip. I'm saying all these old words. Whip. I too, Cydney, my last two sales, like
They're
I
gone.
did them. So
They're outta
you
here.
gotta get what you get. You gotta get what you get, right? Like that is faith. And you telling your story gives other folks permission to, one, remember where they've been, and two, to know that what felt as impossible to somebody, you've demonstrated what faith will deliver for you because you already knew, right? Like, let me move on. He's got the mechanics. I asked in faith. I asked not wavering, and I asked because I knew what's going to come out of it is going to be a blessing to somebody other than just me, right? Like, I'll take God's residuals.
For sure.
Give me that, right? Like, I don't even need the full on. I don't even know if I can handle all of the ways in which. Give me the residuals and I'll take that, because I'm going to be careful to ensure that somebody else is blessed because of that.
And having that faith is to knowing and understanding this thing that's happening to me. And Michele said it's and I think all of you have touched on it. It's working in that greater good. Sometimes it's giving you a second chance to do it again, to get it right. Right? Sometimes it's blocking you from, yeah, you apply for this thing and I'm not giving you this thing because I got far greater over here for you.
He's just pushing you.
Like, if you just surrender, right? And say, you know what? It was, when I look back, a lot of times when you're going through stuff, you don't understand why. And when I look back after I had come through some things, I had to go through those things in order to get to the point where I needed to be so that I could help the other people. Right. And so, but when you're in the midst of it, it's the woe is me and all of that. But if you take a second and say, wait a minute, could this really be for something greater? Am I getting a second chance? Am I getting directed to the better? You'll find out, as Michele said, check the book. Like, you will find out. It's not going to always feel like it, though, when you're going through it. Oh my God, it doesn't feel like it, right? You said the tears and all of that. But when you sit back and you get through it, and you're like, okay, wait a minute.
And shame on you if you think that you get to walk through this world without ever taking an L.
And then there's that.
Yeah, that part.
Right, how dare you?
When you said the second chance, it was just placed on my heart as a reminder to just kind of share this story. It's pretty vulnerable for me, but I do think it's the right setting. So I was in a situation where, I needed X amount of money. And the final number that I had needed ended up being $7,000. And I went through the crying, the praying of where I'm gonna get this money, all of that. And then God brought me a resource, but because of pride, I repelled
Mhm.
the resource, right? So when the person asked me, well, how much do you still need? I said 3,500, because I was embarrassed to
Mhm.
say that I actually needed the full, $7,000. So she went ahead and sent me that. And then I was just like, whoa. It was like, okay, well, I'm about to send it to you. Okay. So then for the next 2 weeks, I was just kind of like tussling and beat myself up. Like, that was so stupid of you. Like, why didn't you just tell her? But God had to reveal to me it was pride. Like my pride didn't want to tell her that I was still that much money in debt. And then 2 weeks later, he had her call me again. And so we're talking, and he's the God of a second chance. I was able to actually confess and let her know how much I truly needed, and she gave me that as well. $7,000 in 2 weeks.
That's amazing. And it kind of goes back to, I kind of think it's a similar experience where just in like your humility, and how powerful that is. You going through a certain experience, right? But the Lord blessing you openly because you're at your low point,
Mm-hmm.
but he's working it all out because you're so faithful and you're so prayerful about it. You're prideful. You were still like, you know what? I need to get this together. I got to get what I got to get.
Yes.
But even still, we talk a lot about, I know in my family, about humility, and what that is and what that means. But you're also able to be a blessing to other people as you share your stories and things like that. That's why I enjoy coming on this podcast with Crystal and Michele, kind of sharing my experiences as an entrepreneur. And in that, just seeing how God will, do his wonders in my life with just sharing the different experiences that I've gone through. So I appreciate you for sharing that. It just made me think about all the experiences that I've had and how I've gotten here to this point by just sharing those super, super, super low moments and then being rewarded. So,
yep.
So as I said, Facebook, fastest hour of your day, and we're already 10 minutes to the top of the hour. We invite you to take a moment and be still in his presence and pray and ask and trust and move. All of the things you've heard Cydney and Meisha share tonight, add them to your toolkit, understanding that faith is the foundation for all movement that matters in your life. Anything else is noise and a distraction. Be still and hear him. Be intentional about what you're asking for. Scripture says you have not because you ask not. Every door that is intended for you shall be open in his time, not yours and not man's. I really love Meisha. It was not a conference call. Go before him in your quiet place and hear him and get up and move with unshakable faith and watch what happens in your life and in the life of those who are around you. Faith, like Meisha said earlier, is a muscle. It requires building that faith over time and over experiences. Spent many, many years journaling into a gift that is still yet to be birthed into a book. This is now maybe 15, 16 years ago. I was journaling and writing and really being in connection with what I was experiencing in life. And I recognized the book itself was called Building Faith. 15 plus years ago, Crystal Gunn wrote me a check for $500. She had no clue, had I taken that check to the bank, how it was going to clear. But she saw in me then what was still yet to give birth today. That check is still sitting in that book that I still come out and connect with, because I know in his time, even though I in circles a lot where people say, when's the book coming? When's the book coming? In his time, sitting still, watching folks pour into you, paying attention to all of that allows you to walk away and walk into a career or a job. I'm sure, Cydney, it felt like a job at the moment, not a career. And in his timing, it's fully blessing you in a way that you get to be a blessing to others, right, Meisha? To be able to plan and bring joy to folks is how we exercise that faith. 15 years, you can't tell me God isn't working. Check your tribe, sit still and hear him and watch him do great, great, great things. So as we get ready to wrap up, Cydney, what's on your faith plate? What's coming for you? What have you already spoken into existence? Because that's how he moves in your life.
We are speaking out a 6-figure year this year. We're going to see 6 figures in these businesses this year. We already believe that it has happened. He has teed everything up in our previous experience these past years. I got every person in my corner. I got every network in my corner. I know exactly what I'm doing. The only problem is I need to ask for it. I need to believe it. So that's a bit on my faith plate. Nothing is too hard for God. That's what I want to close with. The things that we are asking for is not hard at all. He's created me, you. He's created the intricacies of our body to be able to breathe. He's created the heavens, the earth, everything imaginable he has created. Do you think asking for these things is going to be hard for him to do? No.
Come on.
You have to believe these things are going to happen. You got to believe it. And it will be in his will that he has for you. So if it's in your will, if it's in his will for you to have it, then he will make it happen in his timing. It's not going to be on our timing, how fast we want it in 24 hours. I know this 6 figures is not coming tomorrow. It may come tomorrow, but if it does, that's great. If not, that's fine too. But I believe that it's coming. So that's on my faith plate for this year. We're going to do it.
Can't wait to have you back where we hear the outcome, because we know it's coming. We absolutely know it's coming. And right, like the God we serve, like you said, like he can't be, they're small. We're asking small things, right? Deliver in your sleep in a moment if it is his will. Continue to trust and stand on that. Imagine his no to your 6 figures is because in 2024, he's got 7 on deck.
Come on.
Right? Yeah. Bigger than that. We can't dream big enough, as Crystal said, to imagine the ways in which he will bless. Meisha, what's on your faith plate?
Oh, faith plate for this year is I want my own company truck this year. So, I've been going to U-Haul all these years, getting the trucks to load up everything. And I want my own truck with my company name and phone number on the side of it. I feel as though it's time, and this is the year for that to happen. Something that you said, Michele, earlier was around, or something I want to highlight is that when it comes to us having faith, it really is important of the people that we have around us in our tribe. So you do have to be careful. You can't tell your ideas and visions to everybody. Like I said, it's not a conference call, right? And so some people are going to advise you from a place of fear because they would never do it, right? They are too scared to live out their own dreams. So and some people are going to tell you, the opposite things because they want to protect you. They're scared for you. Right. And so you have to have discernment on even who is able to even hear your particular vision or dream or whatever that is. But I'm telling you, get you some prayer warriors, 1 or 2 or 3, right, that can intercede on your behalf and be able to pray. Because if you think about I don't have any children, but for people who do, when you're in that labor room and you're giving birth, you're not in there by yourself, right? So there's a whole team of doctors and nurses that's coaching you and telling you to push, right? And so we got to have that same level of support when we're giving birth to our dreams and our visions. And so having somebody that's next to you that's like, listen. So when I was giving birth to this particular particular conference. It's my first conference, and there were plenty of days where I felt like, you know what, I just quit. I don't see the end of this. I don't want to do this. And I had a friend who was like, I hear you. I know you're tired. I know you're weary, but you're gonna do this, right? Like, what do we need to do? Like, pray right in the moment, or you know what? We're gonna fast together. And, just having that level of support to be like right there by my side when the enemy did try to get into my head and make me second guess, or oh, the sales aren't coming in fast enough. Having somebody there to be like, nope, I'm not going to let you abort this mission. No, you're giving birth to this thing. And so we didn't get to touch on it a lot, but it is important. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that, making sure you know who's around you, and just, being able to trust somebody with the vision who has your best interest at heart.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I would say too, similar experience, not going to touch on it, but what I can say is that pray and ask the Lord to reveal to you who that person is that is blocking you to get into that next level. Because a lot of times you'll have people around you and you think they're in your best interest and they're not. So ask the Lord, ask him, because he'll do it. Ask him to reveal to you who it is.
He really do, though.
Okay, he will do it. Now, you may be upset about who the person is, but listen, that ain't got nothing to do with me. You're going to have to cut ties, do whatever you got to do, because that person is in your way from you getting what you're supposed to be getting. So that's what I'm going to say to that right there.
Yeah. Everybody in your front row isn't cheering for you.
No, they're
on the front row to what may go wrong in your life. Meisha, how can folks find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Dream Celebrations for You. That's the number 4 and the letter U. So you can find me on Instagram.
Awesome, thank you. Cydney, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at it's Cydney, Cydney Hill, HILL. All of the other social pages are in that bio. So
awesome. Thank you, ladies, both. Check your tribe, check your faith, check his receipts. All of the checking will bring you back to one thing is true and unshakable. God is setting you up for an amazing year to be able to receive everything and more. Stand on his word, stand on his promise. If you do that alone, you will watch 2023 go in places you never thought. So be ready, get ready, do the work, knowing that the blessings are going to come because you are exercising your greatest faith, because you gotta have it. Crystal.
Another great conversation. I think somebody was blessed. I think somebody got some sort of breakthrough. Somebody built some more faith muscle today, for sure. And we go through this life thinking we have to accept things the way that they are. But I want to remind you, especially to our women listeners, God gave us all of these incredible gifts. And one of the biggest gifts was the ability to manifest life, right? So if we have the ability to manifest life, we have the ability to manifest the life that we want and desire. But the biggest part of that is faith. So continue to build that faith. Michele, I don't know if it was supposed to be a book, because I watch you live it out every single day. Every single day. I watch the impact that you have on other people. So yeah, I don't know if it's supposed to be a book or if it was just your mission in life, but I watch you fulfill it, and I watch you fulfill it well. And on my faith plate is that I can continue to do and live my life as I do.
Don't make me cry. Don't do it. Don't do it, because I'm a crier.
The quote that I live my life by is by Jackie Robinson. And it says, "For what good is a life except for the impact it has on other lives. So as I live my life every single day, the question is, how can I impact somebody else? So I hope Amazing Women Speak does that. I hope that at least one person is impacted by the conversations that we have here today. Okay. So Amazing Women Speak is sponsored, oh my God, by the Amazing Woman Network, which was my assignment, one of them in this life. And it was created to unite and empower Black women globally, focusing on our core pillars of reclaiming our personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. So please find Amazing Women Speak on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, and Roku. Be sure to subscribe. It definitely will help us out. And take a look at past episodes. There is something that will feed your soul. There is something that will help to build your faith muscle. I am Crystal Gunn. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing, and my faith is bigger now than it ever has been. Michele.
So every week, Crystal, I wrap this up by thanking you for your obedience to the call in which God has put on your life. You never have to question if you're having impact. This platform alone and the lives that it touches for women who have yet to be blessed to be in your physical presence is alive and well. Never, ever do we have to wonder what you did in your dash. I am clear you're having an impact. Keep being present, keep leaning in, and keep moving with extraordinary faith, because it only goes up from here. What an honor to be in the space again with you, Cydney. Meisha, for the first time. Thank you. Never ever stop sharing your faith story and utilizing scripture as a way of making it real for the believer and making it curious for the non-believer. So very grateful to have to share this platform with both of you. My name is Michele Harper. I am a Black woman. I own my amazing because it was established by birth. My unshakable faith has moved me one step closer to Him. And for that, I am grateful. Cydney.
My name is Cydney Hill, and I own my amazing every single day. And faith and favor has carried me every single day of my life. And I'm forever grateful of the Lord, His faith and favor that He has given to me.
Thank you. Meisha.
I just want to say to you, Crystal, thank you for your obedience. Thank you for just being who you are. When you and I met, it was during a time when my faith was lower than it should have been at that time. But I can say, I didn't get to tell you, but I can say that your faith was just so big, listening to me, a complete stranger, that I was able to use some of your faith to like reignite the faith that was in me, and I'm forever grateful for you for that. So it was just like whatever, Crystal says she needs, sure, like it was like, hey, are you able to be on this whatever you need, man. Because your faith definitely rubbed off on mine and just ignited it, all over again during that time. And so I want to thank you. It was great to be able to thank you and give you your flowers in front of your tribe, in front of your audience. So definitely keep doing what you're doing. You are making a big, big difference. So don't ever question that. My name is Meisha Pigford. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing.
Thank you again, everyone. Be sure to mark your calendars and join us next week, where the topic is Black women and childbirth. We actually will have a local doula on the show, Erica Millender, and it should be a fantastic discussion. Have an amazing week, and we will see you next Sunday at 7.